All right. Well, I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah.
Marcus, good to be talking to you. And Marcus we've been friends on Facebook, and he is part of an email list, has been kind of following some of the things that I'm
Sure.
sharing about and on the YouTube channel or whatever. And so he reached out a few weeks ago and had just experienced some huge insights from a podcast interview that I was on. And I just reached out to say, oh, I've got to talk to you, about this and all of that. So um, I was an immediate yes. From the way I interact is nothing is happening by accident. So when
Yeah.
something comes like that, I respond. And so it, it is not a coincidence that these things happen. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. And Marcus, it would be good, like for you to do some context or introduction of
Mm,
yourself and anything else that would be helpful.
yeah. Thanks again for the opportunity. And yeah, it was actually, I listened to some video talks and podcast episodes, and I had some major insights in one of the podcast interviews. And I was traveling by car and had yeah, like a voice, like a command, write him, reach out to him. And I just follow it. It was very like this often quoted flow, or it felt so clear, so deep, so true. So I reached out, and now we're talking. And I'm a host of a still small YouTube channel and a podcast in the German-speaking area about three principles and intertwining with non-duality and law of attraction. So I think it could be a very interesting talk, how how you speak to some questions and maybe some critical questions, or maybe some practical questions. Yeah, how to apply what is not applicable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, that is perfect. And I love the idea of application or practicality because I mean, I'm a coach. And as a coach,
mm,
it is about application practicality. It needs to make a difference
yeah,
in the real world. It
mm,
isn't just theoretical, conceptual conversations to engage in because it's kind of nice to be thinking about them. So, yeah, to me, that part is really important. And I don't distinguish between you can really gain an understanding in either direction. In other words,
mm,
sometimes you can have insights by exploring an understanding,
mm,
but really your only way is that your life shows you and proves to you the way life
mm,
works. Because life always works according to truth.
mm,
There is no thing that goes on in life that contradicts the truth, the universal laws, the principles of
mm,
life can be learned from a direct experience of life. And so, yeah, to me, that's very practical. That's not something that is not practical.
So my channel has a subtitle, Shift Happens. Not shit happens, shift happens. So let's talk about creation, wisdom for a shift to an abundant, miraculously life with ease, or manifestation meets consciousness, aka conscious creator. And I heard you often say, in essence, life has to be a blast. So how? What's it? How can I feel it? How can I um, in everyday life? Work, is it a blast? My marriage, is it really a blast?
Yes, these are good
What do you?
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your beginning point here is essential because you start with feeling. That's your question is about feeling, right? Like to life is a blast is a feeling, right?
Mm,
It's the feeling, joyous, right? So,
mm,
and your question's a good one. Is that like what's all this with this feeling and this blast and this joy and this bliss, right? And you notice people throughout time have pointed to that bliss, passion, follow your bliss. There's something about passion, interest, like there's something they point to there. So it seems that many teachers point that direction of this feeling, this bliss.
Mm.
Why is that? And what I'll do is describe when you are being who you really are, which is all that you are. And all that you are is more than just this. And when I say more than just this, is we could say, well, who you are. Yeah. But so when you say that you are more than just this, because we do get a sense of I'm physical. Like that's inescapable because I can feel it, right? You just feel physicality of you. But there's something more to you than the physicality. And people go, well, that's a little bit, mysterious, or I don't know what you're talking about because physical, we can sense physically. But it's not that strange because if we said physical, and because that's the only thing I can trust because I can sense it or whatever. But then if that's all there was to you, then what we would be speaking about is a dead body. We would be speaking about a corpse. We would speaking about material, physical thing called you. But that is not you because that physical thing is in movement. And that physical thing is alive. And when we look to that, we say, well, like something as simple as the fact that you're breathing. You say, you're not doing that, but it is happening. So it is happening. What is the source of that energy? What is the source of that breathing? There is thinking. Thinking is not physical. What is the source of that? And so once you get into looking at that, there is something far more than the you that you think you are, something far more than you think. Okay, so that by way of that true you is this and more. What is not you is this. Right? So this is not you. It is this and more than this. That is the truth of who you are. So when you are being who you really are, when you are being all that you are, the feeling of that is bliss. It is ease, because this physical being that you think you are is in harmony with the truth of all that you really are. So you are being yourself. In being yourself, we say with a capital S, when you are being yourself, you are at ease. The feeling is good. To be myself feels good. That's a principle, which means that is always true. I cannot in any moment be myself and not feel good, not feel the ease of that. That is always true. If in any moment I am not being who I really am, I will experience the disharmony of that. I will feel the disharmony, and the movement goes from a sense of ease to a stress in the ease. We could say I go from a sense of ease to a state of dis-ease.
Mm.
And that feeling is literally felt physically. I am not being myself. That's hard to keep up. Yeah.
When we in our society speak about be yourself, be authentic, it's often misunderstood that we mean more our meat suit and our belief systems and thought patterns. And when we speak about our true self, it's this thing inside. It's not, you can't, it's not, touchable. And when you talk about harmony in ease, it's like playing a music chord, and you can listen if it's in harmony or if it's in disharmony. You're like, oh, that sounds weird.
Yeah, that is. I like that where you said the musical art. You could say that before you are, all things that are physical are expressing or reflecting that which is non-physical. That spirit within you expressing, being alive as you. So you could say in that non-physical, if we go to an energy and you said music, there is a tone, a core tone that is you. That is, let's say, the soul of you. That is the true tone. And then that for sure allows you to be in the world. True, authentic is expressing that core tone or energy, truth of you, or the disharmony which you feel, hear, sense. It is not quite you. And so feelings, which is the energy, the emotion, the energy, is the indicator of the pure harmony to disharmony, the range of that. It is, in order for emotion to be sensed, in order for anything to be sensed, there must be two perspectives, which is kind of funny from a non-duality perspective, because non-duality speaks to one. So there is the truth of one energy, one consciousness, expressing infinite ways, infinite tones of that source tone, infinite light rays coming from the sun. So now what emotion is becomes, to what extent is this finite aspect of the one source energy in harmony with its source? So the feeling I have, which is a physical sensation and feeling of this energy moving through me, is either moving through me unrestricted, in which case I am being myself, being the truth of me, or it refracts through the finite consciousness of my thoughts and then distorts into something that has less harmony to it, less truth in it. And you will always feel that. And total union is bliss.
Yeah, let's speak to that because it occurred to me in the 3P community, it's often said a thought and a feeling are both sides of the same coin. And also, there's often talked about deeper feelings. So, how can we differentiate about this real, deep feelings, about the truth,
Mm.
about this innate, and the feelings as a side effect of a personal thought or personal thinking? Because sometimes it's for me it's hard to differentiate because the mind body speaks, let me feel something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to differentiate.
Yeah, that was well said about the feeling being the byproduct of something. So this is important. What you say too is like, how do you differentiate between a true innate state? So like a source of light, which is a pure white light, refracted through a filter or Sydney Banks would say the contamination of personal
Yeah.
thinking, right? So you get that pure white light and then a personal thinking that comes through that and makes that thinking my experience. Okay? So I now projected into a world which is um, which is threatening and has such scarcity and is so sad. And I go, this is reality. It's a terrible time to be alive. I'm in terrible situation and circumstances, and we don't see that this pure source, spiritual, unlimited energy has been contorted, twisted through specific thinking that expresses into an experience back to me, reflected back to me of, yeah, this is really hard. And there's a lot of scarcity and there's terrible things that are going on everywhere. It's probably the worst time to be alive.
Mm.
And that is a reality that you then live inside of. It's just not true.
Sounds insane, but I know what you mean. And
Yeah.
when we're talking about this pure white light or pure energy or pureness, our pure true self, pure being, often it's transferred to some essences like pure joy, happiness, inner peace, fulfillment, resilience. And when we're talking about finding your true purpose, and in the self-help industry, there's often talked about you have to find your why. Yeah, you have to find your sense of life, your purpose of existence, and so on. So let's assume someone figured out, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, pure essences, I got it. So do I still need a why? Or is it more like, okay, if I understand this in a deeper level, not intellectually, but in a deeper level, is it more like everything you do is impregnated from these kind of essences? So if you do your 9-to-5 job, maybe everything is filled up with these essences of joy, bliss. In what direction would you say? What's your talk? What's your
What a
take on this?
great, yeah, what a great question. The way as you ask the question, it points to this core tone, truth of me, the soul that is me, is an energy only of thriving. When you look at a plant, you plant a seed, you have a seed. Within the seed is an intelligence, the seed, the energy and intelligence of a fully grown tree.
Mm.
That contains all the intelligence of the manifestation. Left alone without interference, the moment that is planted falls in an environment, the intelligence moves and moves with what's around it with one purpose, one direction. The direction is toward thriving, which is the maximum expression of the truth of that thing. It will move to its maximum expression. It will continue to express what it truly is to its maximum state under those conditions. So you plant it next to a fence, and it will thrive under those conditions. And so the fence and it might have a conversation at some point. Hey, but it is accounting for or including the whole as it expresses itself. And you are the same way. So you weren't born 300 years ago, and you weren't born 200 years ago, which is a very different environment. And you weren't born in Canada, and you are not in Africa. You are where you are. And this intelligence moves toward your thriving exactly where you are.
How does that relate to find a true desire, maybe in form of interests, a specific job or a hobby, or to be in service for the society? So, several years ago, I was hunting, I was searching, I was seeking for the why, for this purpose in outer space. I have to find it because I was told to. I read it, I heard it, I thought it was a reality that there's a specific purpose for me out there. But then one day I heard from Eckhart Tolle, I guess, the only purpose you have is to awake to the fact that you are that awareness, consciousness itself. And it was like, wow, it's more relaxing. And is it maybe not a specific thing you have to do and just live your life, as we said in the beginning, to have a life full of blast? And if you find something specific, you can have this kind of experiences so that the consciousness experience itself through that way. That's what occurs to me right now.
Yeah. That idea of purpose would be, how can I discern or realize? How can I harmonize with? How can I allow that purpose? Now, I'm changing the words because it changes it from how do I find, how do I, it is like in a different way. How do I determine my purpose? How do I decide what's going to make me happy? the so because what we could say is this energy or movement is because we're describing an infinite, all-knowing intelligence. So it knows, the knowing is there for your maximum thriving, your maximum joy, your maximum bliss. The knowing is there for you being the maximum expression of who you really are under these conditions. If in your specific unique situation, the knowing is there, the intelligence is there of that maximum thriving, which we could say is your ultimate. That's your purpose. That's your why. Well, think about that. Since it's there and moving that way, moving me that way, wanting movement that way, then I don't have to do anything.
Mm.
I don't have to do anything because that's what's moving me. I can simply pay attention. And what's moving me is infinite. I can pay attention and begin to discern the details and specifics, the finite aspects of an infinite that moves me.
Mm.
What is that? How do I, again, the feeling? I'm interested in this. Someone may say to you is like, you really should learn coding and you should learn to develop software programs. And you're like, but I'm not interested. And then they say, but and then meanwhile you're like, well, you should, because that would be the right career or a good career for you. But you do that, and then you find yourself instead spending time on weekends or whatever, looking at like latest podcast equipment or sound system, these types of things. But then you're doing that, but then Monday comes and you get back to, I got to get back to my career, right? So this is where there's a disharmony and you're not noticing what's naturally moving to thriving. Because you're busy doing what you think would be better and more practical and really could be more useful. So you try to do what you think rather than noticing what's moving you.
Yeah, I can't find myself in it years ago, and I have some voices of my coaching clients in my head. Oh, it's so exhausting to find my purpose, to find something, and I think it's a big part of our society is hunting, is in the rat race, in the hamster wheel. They're doing jobs they hate or don't love, but when they follow this bliss, this feeling, maybe they would find answers to, but how do I pay my rent? But how do I pay for my food? And that leads me to one question. If someone has a spark for an interest, for example, to write a book, to start a podcast, to have a YouTube channel, and then with time, the interest, this kind of energy is lowering down, and you do it not so often anymore, but you still love it. So I feel it for myself sometimes when the voice is rising, hey, you have to do it this, because I started to translate a 3P book from English into German, and I I make it 1 week, several pages or words, but then 2 weeks later the next time. So, and then I'm hearing this voice of judging. Do that. You have started it. Do it now. And how about that if it starts with this kind of positive energy and you're connected to that, and then after a period of time, there's a sense of, oh, my attention is not so strong anymore, but I still love it. Is it just the voice, my thinking, what's distracting, and I'm on the wrong path, if you will? What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is good. It's a good example too of how we want to distinguish something here, because otherwise we could get lost one direction or another. Like, in other words, we'll do the punchline. The punchline is your wisdom is always in the feeling. Your wisdom will make itself known in the feeling. And so chasing thinking around is a sure way to confusion, right? That's going to be the sure way to confusion, because the universe and soul is coming through you energetically. Energy is felt. An energy. Sydney Banks said the all mind is God. Is a word people use, God. And then he also said God is energy in motion. God is energy in motion. Abraham Hicks, who I follow, says vibration. Well, vibration would be an energy in motion. And so there's these parallels about moving energy. And then energy from a physical perspective is emotion or feeling. So our wisdom will be found in a feeling. The feeling will tell us something. And then we got to watch, because if we go off into the thinking, it'll confuse. So let's do, I think I heard there were two important things. So if you can make sure that, keep me on track. First, I want to step back one place to where you said, but how do I pay my rent? I want to go back. That was practical. So I get it. I have a lot of passion about something. The feeling, I can feel it. And, you told me it's joy. You said it's bliss. You said life is ecstatic. It's a blast. So if I listen to that, that would mean that feeling is the wisdom. Sydney Banks said something. Wisdom is only in a positive feeling. Your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. So I feel joy. I feel at peace. I feel happy. I feel love. There's wisdom. Your wisdom is only in a positive feeling. So wisdom, we're going to find in a feeling. And wisdom is an infinite, all-knowing intelligence. So I just want to come back to, how do I pay my rent? And now I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to us generally.
Yeah, because we talked about a society. Yeah.
Right? I'm talking to us generally. What an interesting question to ask. How do I pay my rent? Isn't there something more important than that to be thinking about? How do you breathe? You're breathing right now. But what about next week? Like, you're worried about your rent next week? What about your breathing? Have you thought of that? Do you think it's going to make a difference that you have enough money for the rent when you're not breathing next week? Have you given that any thought? Right? What about, I'm eating food which is nourishing the cells of my body? It takes from this food nutrients and sends them where it keeps my body going. If those nutrients don't get to those organs and those cells, I'm in big trouble, right? Should I be thinking about this? It's so notice. Oh no, I don't think about any of that. I'm thinking about my rent.
Mm.
And so I just want to bring this up because what I want to say is there is an infinite intelligence that is not stupid. It knows that you will not write a book without paying your rent, and you will not be composing music unless you have food that you're eating and in a shelter in the right place that you're living. So it's so interesting to me how we all don't give any thought to far more important things. And here's the reason we don't give any thought to that. That is so complicated. We have no hope of figuring that out. I have no hope of ever figuring out my breathing. And I have no hope of ever figuring out how this food and nutrient is ever going to move through my body. So forget all that. I can't think about that. Rent, that's so minor. I can figure that out. Lots of people to talk to about that. So now I'm going to take my attention and my consciousness and this intelligence, and I'm going to put it to work to figure out my rent. Go. Well, but you're trusting something far more important to an infinite, all-knowing intelligence. And yet that infinite, all-knowing intelligence is nudging you to translate books, to do certain things. And then you kind of go, well, sure, I could do this, but I need to think about how I'm going to earn money, or I need to think about whatever. And we say, oh, was the intelligence unaware of that? So in other words, oh, so it didn't know that you would need to eat. It thought you would just translate books, but it didn't know that you actually would need to eat and you need money to get food. Oh, it didn't know. Well, what kind of an all-knowing infinite intelligence doesn't know something so simple, right? So that means when you are nudged to be translating a book or creating music or doing something, everything is known. It's all known. It's all included in the inspiration of where you would move, what you would do next.
I'm hearing, because you said inspiration, because these kind of interests often starts with an inspiration, and the word is very strongly linked to spirituality. So in spirit, to be in spirit, and that's the connection to our true self. Yeah, I would say. So yes. Practically spoken, every time this wisdom is nudging us, it's more like a puppet on a string. Hey, move this way, move this way. And if you feel something weird, ignore it. Walk this way, like a GPS, like a Google Maps, if you will. The only thing what's coming in the way is our meat suit and our personal thinking. Is it?
Yeah, that's very well said. We decide to bypass this, not on every subject, certainly not on my breathing and the cells of my body. That, forget it. I'm not bypassing that. I'm going to let that thing flow, right? But I'm going to bypass it about money because I'm going to do that myself. That one I'm going to handle myself. I will manage it. I'm going to read books. I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to figure that one out myself. So look at how ridiculous this is. I will now take a finite intelligence, a minuscule fraction of an all-knowing intelligence, and I will grab from it an essential part of my life or an important part of my life. And I'll figure this one out. you go ahead, keep the body going, keep the breathing happening and all of that stuff. I can handle this myself. It's like
Yeah.
everything important in your life when you start to look at it. The relationship I'm in, we're in a home. We're in a home, and this is like a dream home. About a year ago, we found this and moved here. And I think about that. That might be a good example of this. I think about that.
Mhm.
We lived in our prior home. It's 28 years. And we used to talk, I talked a lot about, one day I want to move to somewhere where there's more nature, more views, more like lots of light and wind. Like I want to be able to see stuff. I don't want to be like with a brick wall next to me and looking right from my office. Kept talking and talking. And, you know, are we just going to keep talking about this, or do we intend to do something? And, but to your point, inspiration, it was like, but nothing moved me. Well,
Mm.
what's going on? I want this thing. It's clear. I feel excited if I think about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm not going to call a real estate agent. I'm not going to take action. Well, what the hell are you saying? You want that or don't you? Well, but the inspiration isn't there. It's not moving me. Well, what the hell is with my soul? Is it on vacation? What the hell's wrong with it? Trying to get to like a nicer place. Like, doesn't it know what's wanted here? It's like,
Mm.
forget it. It's unreliable. I'm going to handle this myself. I'm going to take action. Well, except
Mm.
we'll see how long you can keep it up when it's not charged by your soul, by the inspiration.
Mm.
Later on, the way this unfolded, we are in a place which was in perfect time, in the perfect place, which
Mm.
was not available 10 years ago. It wasn't on the market. It was literally, this is going to sound funny, but it was literally purchased 11 years ago, 12 years ago by someone else who was renovating it and upgrading it so it would be ready for us. Because I also don't like doing all of it.
Mm.
Don't want to do all that. And I don't want to spend my life doing all of that. So they were upgrading and fixing and putting in skylights and opening up windows and doors and things so that it would be perfect for us. That was happening. While, and I could have been living my life at that time in a self-judgmental.
Mm.
I have no commitment. I talk a good talk. I say things like I want to be in a better place, but I'm unwilling to take action. I won't take
Mm.
action. I won't, right? And so I won't, like, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like, but there's no need for action. What you want is known and you are being led to it. You simply need to allow it.
Mm.
It doesn't require your effort. It requires your allowing.
So was the wisdom maybe speaking through your wife to 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 give you a sign, or is it just kind of interpretation from me? But that was what occurred to me, that maybe the wisdom was a nudge through your wife. Hey, come on, buddy.
Now, well, interesting. So now it was. The timing was perfect, right? So about a year
Mhm.
ago, my wife made that statement, a little more than a year ago. She made
Yeah.
that statement. And there was something about start acting. The timing is right. Start acting.
Yeah.
But wisdom looks for, because all that is around you is a reflection of what is within you. Wisdom reflects back all. You can receive wisdom from a billboard, from a book that falls off the shelf, and you pick it up, put it back, and it opens up, and that page tells you exactly, oh my God, I was just working on this, and an answer, and there it is. Right? So wisdom can find. So my wife makes the statement. This is kind of interesting. She makes the statement, well, are we just going to keep talking about this, or are we going to do something about it? And this time I heard it in a way that said, that's right. That's important. What she just said is important. And these words came out of my mouth, which were interesting. I said, you're right. We will move by my next birthday. The next birthday was a milestone birthday, and I was a little surprised because I don't make goals. I don't set goals. I don't put deadlines, right? So I thought it was odd that I would make such a statement. But I did make such a statement in response to that question. I said, yeah, you're right. We need to get started. And let's stop talking about it. We will move by my next birthday. So it just came out like that. I thought it was funny. I'm not typically like this goal-setting person. And I immediately left it alone because I wasn't going to set a date and now start working. So I just left it alone. However, action started to take place. She's on Instagram, sees some poem. We called the agents because we knew who they were, whatever. There was some relationship.
Yeah.
The very next day, we're in a shopping mall, and the agent walks into us. It was far from where we. And there's the agent. My wife goes, "Oh my God, we were gonna call you." And so the agent says, "Oh yeah, very good. Give us a call. We can help you out anytime." The next day or two, my wife goes into a grocery store and walks into the agent again. So we had not seen these agents in a long time, right? So all of a sudden it was like something happening, right? But the big thing is a whole big long story in the unfolding. And in the end, we see a house, we decide there's a whole complication. We're trying to get it out. The agents who don't know anything about what I shared with you, the commitment we made, the deciding, and we said, they don't know anything about any of this. But when it comes to this deal and they are going to put it together, they said to us, okay, here's how we thought about it. We figure that we're going to do this. You'll make an offer on this date. Then we're going to do an open house where you are. Then we're going to do this. We're going to do that. There were, I don't know how many dates they had. They had on this date and this date and this date and this date. And then the closing date will be April 18th. I didn't say anything. I just listened to the whole story. And when it was all done and they left, I said to my wife, I said, don't you think that's interesting? She said, what? I said, do you notice what they said would be the end point of all of this? That's my birthday. Like, it was like, that was a confirmation of this with a precision. It was almost like that came out of my mouth here months before to ensure that I wouldn't miss the signal. So there's intelligence in all of it. And it's like,
it's amazing. It's amazing how creation can work effortless. And if we don't resist to the moment that's unfolding, maybe you could have said in the mall, oh no, I'm not interested in chatting here. Let's go have a cup of coffee. But you weren't opposing. You were in the flow. You allowed, right?
That's the word.
Yeah.
That's the word.
And that leads me to one of the final points I heard in the 3P world. It's a saying, it's a quote maybe. You don't have to do anything to be happy, fulfilled,
Yes.
and so on. And in the law of attraction, it's being said, you can have anything. So the one is more in the infinite world, this power source, and this other is more the reflection. You can, but you don't have to do anything, have anything, be anything, because you are. What's inside the statement of I am, the I amness, what includes all the essences like pure love and so on, right? Is it that kind of way?
So I love, thank you for bringing, this is so important what you're saying. When you go to my website, it opens with, you create your own reality. You can be or do or have anything. That's how my website opens. You can be or do or have anything. You create your own reality. So now let's look, because truth is in paradox, right? So truth is in paradox. This is true. I can speak to why that's true in more detail. Sid Banks and a lot of spirituality say your true state, happiness, the true state, the feeling, the emotion of joy, your true nature is joy. Your true nature is peace. It is innate. That your true nature is love. That is unconditional. It is irregardless of what you be, do, or have. It is irregardless of that. That is true nature. That is true. So now, so both are true. But here's the thing. There is no difference between spiritual and physical material world. They are not distinct. One is always a perfect reflection of the other. It is always a reflection. It is a front of the hand, back of the hand, indivisible. So Sid said this. People, I think, miss what he said. He said, mind, thought, consciousness. This is a formless energy of all things. Then he said, form, the world of form. He said, formless and form. He said, the missing link between formless and form is thought. And after he said all of that, he said, and none of that's true. Because there's only the allness. There's only the allness, which is, he said, God, mind, is what he was pointing to was what is in form, what is formless and form. He was not pointing to what is formless. He was pointing to the allness, to one, the allness. People misunderstand and then say, but Sid said, don't worry about all this stuff. In fact, he said it's illusion. It's like that. Hey, he said to go there, to spiritual. No, you're just dividing this. He was pointing to one thing, and one thing is the allness. So The allness is both what is in form and formless. That's what he pointed to, the source of what is in form and formless. So
Mm.
you can be or do or have anything, because the truth of who you really are is that you are all that is. You are all that is. Your existence eternally, whatever you experience, will always come from within you. You will experience your unique expression of all that is. You will never experience anything outside of you, because there is nothing outside of you. This is where the even misunderstood, like, so, but one day I will have more money, or one day I'll drop this illusion and then I'll become this other, is like, but see, but now you're pointing to like that there's something outside of you that is, that one day then you get to. No, it's all here, and your experience is some focus within it. Why you can be or do or have anything is because to be or do or have anything is to experience it. To experience anything simply requires a focus of attention to it. That's all it requires. So you will experience what you focus upon. If you want to experience it physically, it is a physically focused,
Mm.
it will express physically. So you can be or do or have anything because all you are doing is focusing within the all that you are. And you certainly don't need anything, don't need any particular focus to be who you are, because who you are is all that is. It is not conditioned on anything.
For me, it sounds, if you get this, and it sounds like a lot of fun. I have a picture in mind, if consciousness or this big energy that we are is a big playground, and our impersonation with our meat suit is just a kid on this playground. What decides, oh, do I play with the sand in the sandbox, or do I just swing, or just play hide and seek with the other kids impersonated in meat suits? But we are all this awareness, and we have to have fun. That life has to be a blast, and not, as I now remember, as you said in your Viva talk, if you feel exhausted and if you feel it's so heavy, then you are on your own, because you want to try it with your personal thinking, all on your own. But if it feels light, with ease, then there's a bigger energy.
Yes. That's so good. Two things in what you said. You become exhausted because you've focused as the physical finite you, and you are attempting to create a life as that. Well, that's not enough energy there to do anything. That is not even the intention of that focus and that mind to be creating. That is to be experiencing what was first created by the broader knowing of you, the broader perspective of you. So that's the one thing. That's why it's exhausting, is you're attempting to use a little mind and a finite perspective, which was never intended to create anything. It's not capable of creating anything. It is only capable of experiencing that which is first created in your broader mind. Creation is in thought, it is in mind, and it is manifested, reflected in front of you to be enjoyed by that finite perspective. Enjoyed. The only reason you even imagine all this and even think about all this is to enjoy it. So that's that perspective. Then you said something so important because you use the exact word that Sydney Banks used. This is not in a published, not yet published material. He was asked the question, what is nature? Which you could say is, what is this physical world? You know, Sid, what is nature? And the reason I know this is there was an interview, a conversation I got to have with Linda Kearing, Sherry Hickman. These were two early students. And Linda was writing books for him. She wrote his first book and she was sort of transcribing some of his teaching. And part of what in the teaching is they were writing some questions and they have it on manuscripts. And so they said, Sid, what is nature? Was a question. His response was, nature is God's playground.
Oh.
And they said, what do you say? What does that mean? Right? And Sid said, nature is God's playground. That is where God goes to play with thought. That's where God plays with thought. So, what is this world? What is nature? This is a play of thought. This is the play of thought that we are living inside of. And that God in the world you live in is you. This is where you have come to play with thought. Not your thought of the little one playing here, but your thought of the creator that is who you really are. And you are here in a physical expression, playing with your own thinking and experiencing.
I love
Wow.
that. That's huge. Wow. That leads me to the final question or final thing, because as I said, this channel has a subtitle, Shift Happens. Can you see a shift happening in our world, in our physical world, where we 8 billion humans in their meat suits impersonated this, but they are often blind or still not awake. Do you see a shift happening? What's your take on it?
So nothing is ever still, right? So nothing is ever still in constant motion. The most important thing is only shift that matters is the one that happens with you. Nothing else matters because all 8 billion people could suddenly discover peace, love, joy, and a harmony in living together. And you would experience that world as hell. So what anyone else does or doesn't do makes no difference in your experience because you continue to create your own reality. It is not created by 8 billion people. You are not experiencing 8 billion people. You are experiencing your own thinking about 8 billion people. You experience your own thinking about those greedy, rich bastards who have so much money compared to the poor people. You don't experience them. You experience a world with your thinking about them and what that means. That is all self-created thinking. Now, you also will have, but that's not just my thinking. I have other people who would agree with me. In fact, there are many people who would agree with me. So we can create a Seth, who was channeled by Jane Roberts. He says, you create your own reality. And Abraham, by the way, Abraham teachings where they played off Seth. They were very interested in what Seth said. Jerry and Esther Hicks were very interested in Seth. Specifically, the statement, you create your own reality, is what what Jerry Hicks and Esther Hicks were, very curious about and kind of kept going in that. But Seth said, you create your own reality individually and en masse. Individually and en masse. So there are other points of consciousness. So to have a creation, which is a war, where it makes perfect sense to blow up a hospital and bomb children or kill them, that is a consensus reality that is created en masse. And we don't think that we've contributed, but we have. Some of us just a little bit with the, there's some really greedy, selfish people. I don't like them. Take that one little seed of thought and build the momentum of it, and pretty soon it will make perfect sense that if you could kill those people, you would have heaven on earth. It will make perfect sense to do that. And we will take ourselves to a state of hell in order to reach the heaven that we all desire.
So it starts with us, with each one of us, because there is the creation of the division. If we forget the indivisible, what we are, the oneness and the peace that's behind of that realization. And wow.
That's a big question. How impossible for me to bring peace to this world when I can't achieve peace in my own mind? But can we have a conversation about how we can bring peace to 8 billion people? It's a little bit like, you might want to start with yourself. Because if you can't achieve it here, and you can't achieve it in your family, and you couldn't achieve it in your town, and you can't achieve it.
It's like to be a role model, if you will, and then it could start kind of ripple effect, because someone is wondering, ask, why are you so calm and quiet now? Yes. What happened? Yes. Oh, that sounds good. I'm interested to hear more about that. Right. That's one of my intentions for my legacy project, YouTube or podcast, to spread out this kind of message, to inspire or to raise up the consciousness. We spoke about energy levels or consciousness levels. And but what about if someone wants to learn more about you and your work, and maybe you have some upcoming events, maybe something miraculously.
Well, it's easy for me to find me. My name, DominicScaffidi.com. That website contains links to different things. I have a very active Facebook group called Ask and It Is Given, How Thoughts Become Things. So you can find me there as well. Once you get to DominicScaffidi.com, it'll link you everywhere. My YouTube channel, it will link you there as well. And I do offer programs, group programs and things like that. And Living Miraculously is an 8-week program that turned into a very impactful, powerful program I do with a colleague called Grace Kelly. She and I met each other years ago in some coach training. This program has taken on a life of its own, and we'd had several hundred people participate in these 8-week rounds every time we offer them from 20 different countries. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been an amazing exploration in living miraculously, which is really living effortlessly. And, sort of something I say about this is miracles cannot be achieved, they can only be allowed. And that's what we
Mm.
explore, right? How do you bring miracles into your business, relationship, all of that? Well, you can't achieve them. It's so we explore how can you allow miracles? What you can achieve are like incremental results, little improvements that you can achieve.
Mm.
But if what you're looking for is miracles, then those can only be allowed. And that's in a different direction. And that's the direction
Yeah.
that we explore. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
will put links to it in the description, and then everyone
Terrific.
can decide to dig deeper into the
Yeah. Yeah.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful. It was really great having this conversation. I so appreciate
Yes,
that you
Dominic.
reached out.
Yes.
Have a great start to 2025. And yeah, may this turn out to be your best year yet.
Thank you so much, Dominic. The wishes go also for you for a wonderful 2025. And we will see what reveal or will be created.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome.